Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A little bit of a later start on this Saturday morning. Feeling a little bit tired myself, but hopefully we can get through this one, as there's actually not a whole hell of a lot to update on the higher term timeframes. I mean, we're just kind of seeing follow through on top of that, but the lower term timeframes are presenting a little bit of possibilities over the weekend time frame, if we want to call it that. And then more importantly, actually, there is one little fun thing that we'll look at today as well, mostly talking to like the long term investors, if you will. Anyways, with that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest. Let's get into it right now, wasting no more time. Finding ourselves on the Krown application, which, by the way, can be found at app.krown.net. It's 100% free, alongside Discord as well. Both links are in the description below. And I should notify you that hold off on anything that you might be thinking of purchasing within the next, 48 hours. I've been giving out a few warning signals this past week, but we will be having a sale within on the 15th. So that's, 2 days away from now. There you go. Anyways, with that said, save yourself a few bucks if you are the type of person who's interested in that to begin with. And let's get into it right now. Looking at the good old dashboard here, of which several things are starting to rear their heads once again. First and foremost, open interest still maintaining above that $10 billion marker. That's billion with a B, of course. And this is pretty much the highest that we've ever seen it since the eternity of the dawn of time, if you will. More importantly, that is supported with price action, and we'll come back into the analysis a little bit later on. So keep that number in the back of your mind's eye. Bitcoin dominance also around 61.5% as well. So we have found our lows within that. I still do stick with the narrative that overall we are going to see Bitcoin dominance put in a major low in this region, and we will see most altcoins lose their value versus Bitcoin. That's going to also play into the analysis as well. If Bitcoin does break out or break down, typically speaking, we will see altcoins, not necessarily have the best time during that versus their Satoshi pairing. Now, that does not mean they're going to have a bad time versus US dollar. Typically speaking, altcoins will follow in varying degrees of strength, Bitcoin versus US dollar, but versus their Bitcoin pairing, different story there. Fear and greed index also coming up for a couple points there, or actually 4 points to be exact. But we are more or less actually downtrending on that, which is rather interesting right here, as you can see, going all the way from our February highs down to where we're at right now at about 74 regions. So it is interesting to see, just because Bitcoin is, pretty much right around the prior all-time high. From where we're at right now on the prior all-time high, it's really not that much from a percentage basis. And it's rather interesting to see that the market is not as optimistic as it was priorly, which is going to play into the long-term analysis that, Bitcoin is more or less fucking bullish here, just full surprise. There we go. Anyways, on the higher term time frames, that is. Anyways, looking at our open interest versus price action charts right here, again, making new all-time highs on open interest. Technically speaking, we did make a slight new all-time high on price action for CME, but I don't believe on spot price action. More importantly, with that, it does again suggest that this is very likely reaccumulation leading into continuation, which I think that was pretty much already confirmed with Bitcoin's move back above 51,500 bucks that we identified, I think at the end of last week. Now falling through on top of that. Funny rate also coming down quite significantly here too on the weekend, so it is good to see a reset, especially at the precipice of what would be a major breakout here as well. So everything is kind of lining up with a move probably within these next couple days. I usually don't like the weekend price action, but I do believe that within this next week, probably do see a lot of opportunities arise with Bitcoin continuing here. Now, it should be noted that on the funny rate, it's really only FTX that's way the fuck out there at 0.127%. We've been documenting this for a long time now. We did see a slight issue a couple days ago, but as we said, hey, first things first, I want to see this perpetuated for at least a couple days here before this actually becomes relevant. And as you can see, we actually had the opposite of that happen, which again does play into the narrative that Bitcoin is long-term, more or less good. Anyways, let me make sure that I'm recording. I am recording. Microphone's working as well. And let's see what else we got here. Okay, there is one other thing that is rather concerning to myself. That is the premium of futures over spot price action, which is really increasing here, significantly. So the market is pricing in an upside move, which, kind of does make sense, yes. But you typically see these really get divergent from each other, at extremes. So that would be a little bit of a short-term counterpoint here. And also Bitcoin dominance chart, you can see that's certainly leveled off right here, and we'll take a little perusal into that today as well. So into the secondary charts we go, and let's see how all of our higher term timeframes closed on CME's weekly closure yesterday, of which daily closing on that nice rising wick basis, still good. Still looking at momentum also is down here as more or less fine as well. Now the daily MACD for CME's was not as aggressive as what we saw in spot price action, but it's good to see this one fall through as well. And typically speaking, I generally favor CME charts charts. And we actually don't have the exact same signatures going on here, which is rather interesting to me, as we do have hidden bullish divergence on the MACD histogram, for example, on the daily, but that is not present for futures, actually. Anyways, more importantly, we do see that the daily MACD is crossing the upside. This is also coming alongside of the breakout of the medium-term range. That was above that $51,500 number right here, and this is all supported by the ADX DMI giving off essentially a bullish signal. Anytime that we have seen the DMI plus essentially get dominant. Hey, what the fuck is going on my other screen? Oh, there we go. That's just my ID. Okay, nice one. Getting hacked. I'm getting hacked. Shit. Anyways, yes, looking at this right here, you know, DMI plus obviously dominant, ADX obviously strengthening as well. And the last few times that we've seen a signal similar to this was obviously coming out of the late January base. That was when price action was essentially accelerating from $35,000 all the way to actually where we're at right now, pretty much. Time before that was way the fuck back on over here in December. That was precipitating the breakout from 19,000 basically to 42,000. And the time before that was way the fuck back on over here in October, September, precipitating the breakout from about 11,500 to about $20,000. So these are all pretty damn big ones. And even one before that right here in July on that breakout from about 9,000 to 12,500 bucks. So all of these pretty damn big moves, and I do look at this more or less a good thing over the whole, of course. And with that in mind, you know, I do still remain more or less bullish on the long term, but CMEs obviously do not trade over the weekend. So what does that mean for the weekend price action? Well, we'll get to that soon enough when we go to the lower term timeframes. But for right now, I just want to, you know, look at the higher term timeframes for CMEs as they're already confirmed as of yesterday on closure, and we are still looking for, at least I would be looking for continuation coming in this next week. You know, if I had to call it right now, extremely likely Bitcoin does make new all-time highs in this next like week or two of price action. Weekly ADX DMI giving that same sort of signal as well. Very good right there. DMI, or sorry, not DMI, but the MACD histogram increasing once again. So momentum is actually increasing from this level. This is all very good stuff to be having together. So all higher term time frames still very much bullish to myself. We can go look at spot price action here too. I imagine there's not going to be much difference on weekly. Nope, we don't see any difference really. 3-day, same shit. You know, ADX DMI giving off a bullish signal. We have a nice little kiss and go right here as momentum turns up, pre-approaching the top side of the range. Again, good shit to be seen with each other, and the buy daily even more aggressive on that as well. Actually having another bullish cross right here, as it technically was bearishly imposed there for a second, and this is accompanied by momentum turning up at the same time. So all of this looking good, and I would be looking for this for another continuation drive, very likely to, you know, that $61.5 to $62,000 targets. Of course, daily should be notified. You know, the same things that we've been looking at for the last you know, for the last like week or so, still very much relevant. To kind of wrap it up here, I'd say we first and foremost have MACD histogram divergence, hidden bullish divergence, that is, coming off the lows from 30,000 to 45,000 bucks. So and momentum is increasing over time. We do have the bullish MACD cross over here, obviously, and that is coming alongside of an actual break of the range. Again, need to see those things combined with each other, which we do, and that continues as long as Bitcoin's above, well, 48,600. So there you go. Not happening at least today, most likely, unless we see a pretty nasty pullback, if you will. $10,000 pullback, right? Anyways, DMI plus obviously dominate here as well, and exact same signals that as we identified earlier, coming out of that February base, the December base, and of course the October base, and before that, I believe August. And all of these things, you know, obviously should be confluent with each other. Good to see that we do actually can confirm the confluence. And on top of that, we do have that 55 and bottom side shoulder band signal that we see right here, which anytime that we have seen the 55 cross the upside of the bottom side shoulder band alongside a break of the medium term range, which is typically notified by your brown 20 simple moving average right here. That is your continuation drive. That is your continuation drive right here. That is your continuation drive over here. That is your continuation drive over here after this signal. These ones taking a little bit longer to perpetuate themselves, but more importantly, we see the exact same thing going on right here as well. Cross the upside plus move above the 20 simple, also breaking the medium term range. Good. Okay, so with the higher term timeframes, you know, I mean, we kind of been repeating the same things over the last few days, but it is good to follow up on these things. And while this might sound like a bit of a broken record for the people who typically view these videos, if you are new here, well, then I just want to follow up on that, especially for the people who do typically, you know, view these videos, because then you can see that these signals, you know, while they do more or less play out, it takes some time. Obviously, we're talking about higher term timeframes here. So let's now flip this back around and go to the lower term timeframes. Well, by going to the lower term timeframes, I mean go to the weekly on CMEs. Oh, yes, that's right. I wanted to talk about one more thing that was confirmed as of yesterday. Now, this was more or less a formality, but good to see follow through on this one as well. Hidden bullish divergence very much confirmed on yesterday's weekly closure for CME. Does that bleed into spot price action closure? Extremely likely, yes, but technically speaking, we don't have that confirmed until tomorrow, although I would say extremely fucking likely. Okay, look, when you have a signal like this, a little bit of a dissection right here. When you have a signal like this, where you get a hidden bullish divergence signal, this also works for hidden bearish divergence signals as well. But in this case, obviously it's hidden bullish. And in this case, when you do see that signal is already confirmed, is getting confirmed as you already approach your prior all-time high in this case, again, flip this around for hidden bearish, then when you get that signal, it's extremely likely to lead on into new all-time highs. In this case, into new highs on that rally. And in this case, we are not just at new all-time highs, we're not just at new highs on this rally, we're on new all-time highs as well. So this is price discovery plus momentum plus trend plus market cycle. So this is kind of like the quadfecta of good shit long term. And we can also see momentum turning up as well. And while historical volatility percentile is getting, pretty red there, it's in the 90s now, the 90 percentiles. I still want to see it get, really deep. We want to see like actual extremes, into the 99 plus region, of which spot price action not even close to being there. As you can see, it's about just under 80 percentile actually. So not as aggressive, and actually would look for spot to be the more what's called relevant of those two. The reason being because we have more history. Obviously, CMEs only have a couple of years of history here, so naturally speaking, when you are looking at a percentile indicator, it's it's only going to be measuring towards the past history that actually has history for, and of course that's not going to be all that much right here. So my point is that everything's looking more or less good, and I'm looking for continuation coming into the next week, maybe even over this weekend. However, over the weekend we typically do see, I wouldn't say fake moves. That's a wrong terminology, because a fake move still can liquidate you or give you a very bad P&L, which it actually fucking matters, of course. So what I would say with that is that, over the weekend, I look for essentially, moves that counteract the week's direction. And those typically end up being major opportunities. So in this case, obviously the week's direction was up. We identified and confirmed the reaccumulation. And with that said, if we do have a downside move over the weekend, essentially, I would be looking at that as an opportunity. So where would that essentially come from? Well, let's go into our spot price action charts, because they're the only one trading during this weekend, of course. And let's go down to our lower term time frames right here. 4 hour, we did play out the hidden bullish divergence that we identified yesterday. That did give the move back up to the prior highs we said was likely. But here's the thing: if you're looking at the lower term time frames, yes, technically speaking, there is an ascending triangle, and it's just a fucking uptrend right here. Pretty damn basic stuff, right? And this is, by the way, also with a very likely move coming probably even within these next 24 hours. With that said, so typically speaking, with an ascending triangle at a high level, that is your reaccumulation formation, right? Yes, well, good, especially leading into your prior all-time high. I mean, it's a pretty fucking good signature right there. Because it is a weekend, I would be a little bit on edge about this. A lot of the time over the weekend, we do see actually descending and ascending triangles being put in, and it usually runs the other way. This brings me back to one of my sound bits that I typically say. Look, I've seen every fucking pattern breakout every way that it's not supposed to. Now, TA naysayers will say that means that's proof that it doesn't work. No. Silliness. You have to understand that when you have a bias like that, the inherent value of that is that when it gets undone, if it technically breaks the other way that it's not supposed to, because it's always the game statistics anyways, then that actually gives you an edge on the other side. So in this case right here, you have a very obvious area, right? You got this as your, I guess that is your high. I already have it in there. And we can use this as our kind of rising bottoms right here, basically running upon the 21 exponential average, also, in line with this fib extension right here too. So good influence around this whole one. And usually if this was during the week, I'd say that this would have, a greater than 70% probability to actually break to the upside. That is the statistics on this one. However, because it is a weekend, I do express a little bit of reservations with that. At the end of the day, my opinion is irrelevant on this. If it does break to the downside, you will fucking know, because it's quite simple here. We either close a 2 hour or 4 hour delta below this 55,900 pivot right here, or just take out yesterday's wick low, or I guess it's not yesterday. Yeah, it is yesterday's wick low. At 54,850.5 on BitMexico. Again, check your exchange. It will be different upon different exchanges, but that would be it for BitMexico. Anyways, as it stands right now, where would your continuation point be? Either a move higher above yesterday's high. I think that's a little bit more shaky. I want to see a closure on new highs. And in this case, it would be a closure on new all-time highs on a 4 hour. Even a 2 hour would do that for me as well at 58,300. And then, yes, I would be looking for Bitcoin to just mosey on its way over to the next proverbial targets, which are around about $62,000 in line with the 3 spot extension right here, which actually has been working incredibly well. Getting our highs of the range, getting the lows of the range, and working its way onwards and forwards from there. So with that in mind, I believe that also does line up with our measured move from this formation as a reaccumulation formation right here, starting to look a lot more like a potential cup and handle, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I mean, they all have like the same sort of insinuations there, and that would be in line with the 3.618 Fibonacci extension right here. So in its totality, if we do get that breakout to the upside above that level, I would be cognizant of the $62,000 level right here. However, ultimately, I'd be targeting to move up towards about $69,000 because it's also a great number, and it's a great number, right? Anyways, in the lower term timeframes right here, if you are looking at this as an ascending triangle, you could, obviously plot a measured move on this one, and it's probably gonna be around that, I'd guess, $62,000 region. Oh, what do you fucking know? Right there, in line with the 3-spot extension. How the fuck does that work sometimes? Anyways, good confluence right there. So if it does happen, I'd be a lot more interested in it if this was over the weekend right now, or sorry, over the weekend, not over the weekend, bad turn of phrase, but as it stands right now, it is in place. Now, a lot of the time, like I said, over the weekend, we will see a counteract move on this, and in this case, what would be like the most obvious thing about this? Well, if we go back to our charts that we were looking at yesterday, I would essentially be looking at any sort of move back down to 52,500 as a major opportunity. I don't really have a strong opinion on whether that plays out or not. Things are looking more bullish here than not, to be fair, on the shorter term time frames, but it typically looks like that over the weekend before a little bit of a counter move. So in that case, again, I would be using either yesterday's wick low as a continuation point towards that $52,500 to $53,000 target, or a closure below the 21 on the 4 hour, essentially. If one of those two things happens, then yeah, I'd probably be looking for another downside move, and very likely does give another opportunity right here, putting in like a more obvious handle, perhaps, if you are looking at this as a cup and handle, or a potential cup and handle, or just some variation of a reaccumulation formation. Because again, at the end of the day, I really don't give a fuck what you call these things. It matters how things actually break out and how they respond, and what that implies. That's what's actually more important, obviously. Anyways, so looking at this right here, lower term time frame momentum oscillators, what are we looking at? I mean, I think that we've very likely already seen this play out. Yes. What do we see on 4 hour Stokes? They are technically coming down right now, losing a little bit of momentum there. Not really telling us all that much, but let's see what the other lower term time frames kind of shape up to be. So 3 hours already kind of turn it around. Let's see if the other time frames agree. Bi-hourly, gonna have a chance to do the same thing as well, and hourly, likely gonna have a chance to do the same thing as well. Although we do have, of course, this trend line coming in here. We also have this competing trend line coming in from this area right here. So is it going to wedge itself into this region? Very likely. The breakout out of that region likely does get the next short-term time frame move, to be fair. So, if we're talking to the downside, again, we are talking to like a $3,000, $4,000 move to the downside. If we're talking to the upside, we're talking about a $3,000 to $4,000 move to the upside, plus continuation towards $69,000. I mean, that's more than a $10,000 move from where we're at right now over time, obviously. So with all of that said, lower term time frames are actually gearing up for a move right here. You see HVP is kind of the best indication of that. And in this case, we're all kind of headed down to single digits right now. So things are setting up for a move, extremely likely, I'd say, before Monday the latest. And that likely either leads into a breakout of the range, or we come back down, test around 52,500, 53,000-ish region. And personally speaking, I'd be looking at that as an opportunity. I have no reason to be even medium-term bearish on Bitcoin. Again, as long as we're above this pivot right here at about 52,500 on a 2 hour or 4 hour closure. Below there, yes, I could get a little bit more medium-term bearish for another move back down into the upper $40,000 region, but still one thing before the next, because at the end of the day, I'm not really going to be bearish on like a macro uptrend, of which, I'm not going to bring up the monthly today just because we've beaten that fucking horse to death at the beginning of this month, and nothing's changed there obviously as well. But as it stands right now, things look more or less good, I suppose. Anyways, okay, cool. Let's go see what the medium term time frames are looking like. 12 hour just kind of crawling its way to the upside. I still like 12 hour RSI. I look for to give kind of the general trend here. And again, in this case, this is posturing for a nice move, to be fair. Even the lower term time frame, same thing as well. We don't see any sort of, major critical reads. We don't see any major bearish divergences. We don't see anything like that. And this is what typically does precipitate an actual breakout. In these cases. So again, I do express a little bit of reservation because it is a weekend, but coming into next week, extremely likely, I would be looking for Bitcoin to make new all-time highs towards those next proverbial targets. Same thing on the daily right here, playing out hidden bullish evidence from days ago. I would say that that's the easy portion of that move's already played out. Now, this is a little bit concerning right here. Daily Stokes getting way the fuck up there into the same territory that, has called a lot of local highs. but can still have another, another slight move there before that actually does play out, and perhaps that does play out towards $62,000 first, and then plays at a pullback from that region. Same thing on the 2-day right here, having a fresh cross the upside as we identified days ago, and back into the bullish control zone. Good 2-day RSI again, very, very healthy here. Short term, maybe a little bit of downside, but again, long term, that is extremely likely to have continuation. And same thing on the 3-day as well. And this one actually still playing it out just above the exponential here too. So all these things, well, also accompanied by, hey, get the fuck back on over here. Accompanied by this as well, which is, by the way, playing off this trend line, still looking good to me. And again, while I don't necessarily feel all that compelled about the short term timeframes, higher term timeframes, well, to put it bluntly, I'm fucking bullish on. Anyways, let's see, 20 minutes into this bitch. Let's try to make this a little bit faster today. I do want to go check out the broad market. Let's go check out Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance right here, and yes, yep. So we are getting that first slight move to the upside. Be looking at the weekly though. The weekly is looking a lot more like an obvious low going on right here. I'll be looking for this one to move its way back up into the deeper 60%, the deeper 60% region, probably for the next couple months here. I don't think alt's gonna be having the best time if Bitcoin rallies here. Let's also go check out caretaker ranges. He's actually in a strong rising trend right now in the bull zone. Yeah, I would agree with that. So caretaker says continuation more likely right now than not. This is on a 12-hour. What about a 4-hour? Bull zone consolidation. Yep. Okay. Continuation above 60,000. Yep. Okay. What about daily? Not getting the same targets here, which is rather interesting, but still, strong rising trend. So he's essentially in line bullishness. Let's see, where are those targets coming from? Yep, we do have the $69,000 target up there, so very interesting on that one. Anyways, okay, so Bitcoin dominance, we got through that. Should we check out Mr. Buterol too, or should we check out traditional markets? I mean, traditional markets just look like continuation to me. What is this? New all-time highs closing for Dow Jones. What about this? Do we have a new all-time closing high? 39.31 versus 39.32.75. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Momentum turning up. I'd be looking for new all-time highs on this. Still $4,000 plus target. And NASDAQ, the laggard of all these, but seeing as the other two big boys are headed up as well, I'd very likely be looking for this one to head up at the same time. Hidden bullish evidence could potentially be notified as early as next week with any sort of a move back above this week's high at 13,119.25. So all of that's looking good. Again, all these markets are pretty much correlated with each other, kind of move together. A rising tide does lift all ships, and I'm very much convicted of that fact within the world. Just kind of applies to everything, it seems like. Hey, let's go check out the mid caps too. Oh, what do you fucking know? New all-time highs as well. So broad market looking good. And, does that play with Bitcoin? Very likely, yes. I mean, that's typically what we do see. So all markets bullish, baby. All markets fucking bullish as usual. The market that never goes down. Well, except for a few, ins and out here's. Anyways. Gold closing on a little bit of an uptick, so the bounce continues. Nice, we got that one. Good. Should we go check out Mr. Buterol really quick? Sure, why not? Oh, what do you know? It's the same fucking chart as Bitcoin. That's crazy. It's going to do whatever Bitcoin does. Look, Bitcoin moves up to the upside here. You'll see Buterol back around $1,900. Bitcoin moves to the downside. You'll see Buterol back down around $1,550. Simple as that. Easier to watch Bitcoin, in my opinion. Easier to watch Bitcoin. That's it for that. Okay. All right. So there's one other little fun thing that I'll bring up today. I want to bring this up in reference to, I don't know, the long-term investors, if you will, which I don't really consider myself as one, but I do think that it's relevant to bring up just because, I don't know, man, it's probably like all the rage right now, but it's the Bitcoin investor tool. And there we go. Yeah. Any one of these works. They're all the same thing. I imagine we can bring up this one right here. Sure. Or I guess maybe not actually. So we'll just go with this one instead. All right. There we go. Anyways, someone brought this up on the Twitch stream yesterday. I pretty much balked at it on first pass and I was like, whatever. It's kind of a silly name like Bitcoin investor tool. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like a little bit of a clickbait name to me, but whatever. I think I judged this one a little bit too harshly at first, or at the very least, I probably shouldn't. It's not that I should judge. It's just I should show this, let you make your fucking decision for yourself. And is there a few interesting things with this? Yeah, absolutely. So I was a little bit quick to judge this one, but the idea here is that your top red band, if you will, or your top red, I guess these are kind of like variations of EMAs here. are essentially denoting where Bitcoin is, enters into like its parabolic phase. I do have a couple pushbacks for that statement because we don't see the same symmetry that we see in the 2017, 2018 saga versus 2012 and 2013 right here. But basically, as you can see, anytime that price action does maintain above the red, we do see like sort of the last splurt, if you will, of that major bullish push. Now, here's the thing though, and here's where I kind of push back on this, or at least provide a little bit of or at least express a little bit of reservation with this. And what I'd say is that when you look at these signatures from 2013 and 2014, they are very similar, whereas Bitcoin breaks above the red as soon as it kind of breaks the prior all-time high. Okay, very interesting. Happens right here. And then you can see this one happens right here as well, pretty much to the fucking T. And yeah, Bitcoin does rally quite significantly after that. You could say that is your parabolic phase. I'd say that, this whole thing's fucking parabolic phase because, well, that's pretty impressive price action to begin with. But then we go over to 2017, 2018. It's not really the same, actually. You can see that it crosses above the red right here. And that is about an 8x above the prior all-time high, which is about $1,000 right here. So it's not really of the same nature, in my opinion. This is where you would have expected it to break above the red if it was similar to the last couple iterations, which makes me a little bit on edge about that because you would naturally want to see like some rhyming type of behavior, which we actually don't see. Because over here, I mean, it's literally like it's like an 8x more multiple than what we saw above the prior all-time high. This happens at 8,000. This happens at about 1,100 right here. So it's not really akin to the prior ones, but if you want to play around with this, hey, make your decisions for yourself. I think it's interesting nonetheless because we do see that when it officially does break above the red right here, I mean, that is a pretty fucking aggressive takeoff. Is it as aggressive as what you see over here? I think it's more aggressive, actually. This one really speaks towards the parabolic. This one over here, I would look at this price point at about 345 as that same sort of territory. And in reference to this one over here, I'd look at $70 as the same sort of territory as well. So, I do express a little bit of reservations with this, but it's Saturday. There's not too much to be talking about. So why not bring out some of the more fun experimental shit? Anyways, what's more important, or what's maybe more relevant to you, is the fact that Bitcoin is actually not taking out that red territory on this current mega fucking rally, this biblical rally, which is a great way of putting it. I think Mr. Caretaker used that terminology a few days ago or a week ago or something, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually a really good way of looking at this. Anyways, more importantly, that current level would be about $64,000 as it is right now. That's very interesting because that actually is a little bit below our next sort of targeted region on this next breakout, which would imply that if Bitcoin actually does reach that target, then Bitcoin does enter into its new parabolic territory. And, from these other signatures, let's actually see what the percentage was gained after, well, essentially taking out the red. I'm curious if this has any rhyme or reason. If this does, that would be extremely interesting to myself. So first and foremost, we'll start with this one over here. This one precipitates about a 666% rally. The fucking devil's number right there. What do we see on this next one right here? This one rallies up about 377%. Okay, pretty damn good, but even those two aren't very synonymous with each other. This one over here in 2018, what do we see? Do we see anything comparable? We see about 132% rally. So not really. We're not really seeing a rhyme or reason here. But let's just play around with numbers. So we saw 666 versus like 350 and then a little bit over 100%. So let's just, I don't know, maybe it downgrades every fucking time. And now it's going to be 50%. Let's just play around with that number regardless of the fact. And where would that put Bitcoin? Yeah, about $100,000. Still not too bad. Still not too fucking bad. Let's see. What would it be if we 100x'd it? Well, that's just 2x from that price point. So that'd be obviously somewhere around like one and a quarter. Or sorry, 125,000. If we were to take one of the more greater ones on that, 300%, that puts Bitcoin at $250,000. If we were to take 600%, that puts Bitcoin at about $500,000, a little bit under $500,000, which actually does kind of line up with some of the other things that we have been looking at here. If we do look at the Bitcoin Pi cycle, which is actually made by the same guy here, which I actually have I actually put a lot of faith in this just because this doesn't just work on Bitcoin. This actually works on like a lot of other assets I've seen, which is extremely fucking interesting to me. Anyways, at this point right now, we do still see that even to get the bearish cross on this, kind of marking off our last prior market cycle highs, you still need to see Bitcoin rally up to like 500,000 bucks. Now, I would even argue that even when this gets down to about 80% away from price action to the reverse function, that is usually when you see the end of your generational rallies anyways. I have a long form video on this in the long-term analysis playlist. That'll go over that in detail. I won't do it today because it's probably too fucking boring, but 80% from where we're at right now. Oh, that's very interesting. That's very fucking interesting. That would be just above 100,000 bucks. That kind of lines up with one of the projections that we were looking at earlier. Kind of. I mean, again, we're fucking really reaching for straws right now, but interesting nonetheless. Anyways, if the question is, does Bitcoin get to 6 digits in this current market cycle? I'd say pretty damn likely. When does the end of the market cycle happen? Don't fucking know. I don't think timing these sorts of things is can really be done that far in advance. This is about the closest that I can get right here, and that's still not going to give you like a day-to-day type thing. It's going to give you like this is extremely likely type thing. So there you go. Anyway, this video is getting a little bit more long than what I originally planned for, so you know what, we're going to go back on over here. And I don't know, do we even need to wrap this up? Pretty damn short video anyways. At the end of the day, all higher term timeframes are bullish. Let's wrap this bitch up. How about that? All higher term timeframes still very much bullish. I'd still be looking at the same sort of continuation signals that we saw coming into this week. And we do have several confirmations on CMEs, which already closed for the week, which is going to confirm your hidden bullish divergence right here. Likely bleeds into what we see on spot price action. Momentum offset is all headed up as well. And I still would be sticking with the upside targets somewhere around the 3.618 Fibonacci extension. Ultimately stops along the way, very likely at the 3-spot extension, about 62,000 bucks. That does line up with the short-term time frame ascending triangle formation that's going on right here, as we identified right here, all the way up to 62,000 bucks. Nice one. And so I would be looking for a bit of a short-term pullback right there. Again, because it is a weekend, I do express concern with the short-term timeframes here. A lot of the time we do see like an ascending triangle break to the downside over the weekend. Just classic shit. If you've been in this market for long enough, you've probably seen it plenty of times already. Let's just move this back a bit. And if that were to happen, you'll be notified by taking out either yesterday's low at basically 55,000 bucks, or the 21 on like a 4-hour closure, a little bit less, little bit less documented right there. However, I would still be looking at a move down towards like 52.5, 53,000 bucks. That is a multi-$1,000 move, $3,000 around. So I would be looking at that as very much actionable, but I'd more importantly be looking at a major opportunity along this area right here. And I remain bullish on basically all time frames as long as Bitcoin's above 52,500 pivot. If Bitcoin loses 52,500 pivot, yeah, we can talk about further downside stints below 50,000 bucks. Once again, probably around 47 and a half. But we'll get to that bridge when we cross it, as the saying goes. Or well, let's just make a new saying. How about that? Anyways, I'm a little bit more tired than usual today, so you know what? I'm gonna be signing off right there. I want to wish you the best of the best for the rest of the year Saturday. Take care, and until next time.